Trevor, Ed, welcome to the show. It's great to have you here today.
Great to see you again.
Yeah, great to see you, Judy. Thanks for having us.
Thank you. So at NVIDIA's recent GTC conference, Jensen Huang stated that AI agents will become part of our digital workforce with 10 billion digital workers soon collaborating alongside us. So in 2025, how do you see AI avatars and digital twins shaping digital interactions with transforming business workflows? Trevor?
I think it's about 3 months since we last spoke, but in that time, I mean, it's amazing. I mean, we've practically taken Moore's law on transistors and thrown it out of the window, right? You had about a 2x multiplier over there. And the common refrain now is that with the agents, the value that agents drive and the compute power and the impact they have is about every 7 months. So doubling every 7 months, which is absolutely incredible. And that's one of the reasons NVIDIA is so excited and the rest of the industry is so excited, because in the last couple of months, we've seen, theories turned on their head. I mean, you had DeepSeek come in and take this concept of you don't need, hundreds of millions of dollars in order to build sophisticated models. You can get actual value if you're creative and you put your mind to it. You can use chain of thought, and you can use, you can really take self-functioning and self-learning and turn it on its end, right? So I think that's been pretty exciting for all of us. Llama 4 came out. Aviso's a huge fan of Llama 4 and open source models. And one of the reasons we're so intrigued by the possibilities is it's got what we call a 10 million context window, which is huge because we use something called RAG to essentially provide context and content for our models. And with these advancements from Llama 4, it's just turned that on an end as well, because we can probably start improving our compute substantially, right? So with that being said, when you look at our customer base, it's almost a question of where do they go from here, right? You're talking about autonomous agents. You're talking about, agents that have transformed from being chatbots to, reasoning on their own, automating workflows, and really transforming the way companies go to market, right? Whether it's Honeywell, whether it's Lenovo, whether it's Cisco we're working with, we've seen this real desire to embrace AI and take it to the next level. So.
And Ed, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'll take it to a little bit more practical level, which I think is so exciting because we're past hype. We're in real business outcomes now and how companies are thinking about the real business outcome flow of this. So just think customer service and customer engagement, being able to deploy 24/7 agents that now help reduce the human capital workload that you need inside of that customer service desk on brand centricity all the time, which I think is really cool. Or even in virtual environments. So think about how avatars and how agents are working in virtual meetings and virtual collaborations. And then I think about our own selling organization that we have at Asana, where we're able to deploy real sales coaches, real sales teachings, real sales workflows inside of our own team to enhance education, training, and productivity of our workforce. And I think those are real applications of avatars and agents today. When I think about digital twins, what I think is exciting is the business simulation process that's happening. So just take a manufacturer right now that can really create very highly predictable maintenance and understanding on their physical machinery or on their physical product. I think that's a really incredible transformation that's happening, watching those go through the industry right now.
And Ed, let's take a step back. Give us a quick outline of what Asana is and who you work with.
Asana is a work management platform. So we solve this problem of organizations that today are trying to transform from Excel spreadsheets and email and chat conversations into a real structured way of working to transform the productivity that they get out of their teams, their people, and the company itself. So we solve these two great problems. One, we really help understand who's doing the work, how's the work happening, where is it happening, why is it happening, what's the contextual framework behind it, and then being able to report on that work. So the C-level loves it because as they start to transform how they think about productivity of their workforce, how they think about this new world of human and digital workforce, and where can they get applicability on both, and how do they make sure that their goals are being achieved. And we solve the problem of the employee. The employee wants to know that the work that they do is connected to a goal of the organization and they feel like their work matters, which I think puts Asana at a really unique category because we can solve both of those, C-suite and employee at the same time. And that's pretty special.
So there are so many tools and solutions out there. Talk to me more about what makes Asana different and your AI. How does it work?
Our AI is workflow centric. And so when you think about AI today, mostly started in kind of chat and web-based applications. We are deeply embedded in the workflow itself. So we are a workflow centric AI tool. Think you have your foundational models. We put a scaffolding engine, a contextual framework on top of those models and really embed deeply in the workflow of the organization. So if you're a marketer, content publication, content design, content broadcasting. If you're in IT, really solving help desk and ticketing. If you're in R&D, kind of product roadmap, product launch cycles. If you're in sales, kind of business development applications. So we help bring AI into the workflow of the user and really create that end outcome for those that are already writing rules and automations and having AI be the coordination layer to the human to create a much better experience.
So Ed, talk to us about the kind of value that your customers, maybe market customers are receiving from Asana, like 10x, 3x, 5x.
Asana works with companies that are the small shop outside all the way up to the Amazons, Accentures of the world. So we really span, we have over 100,000 customers that span SMB all the way up to the largest enterprises. And I think some of the value we see from our customers is, are they able to accelerate the project, the initiative, or the work that's happening? Yeah. And so we have a customer that publishes content to digital screens. So you're walking through airports, you're driving, you see content on digital screens. They were able to increase their content production to those screens by 60%. I mean, it's unbelievable just by using some of our AI tools in their content production, in the way that they bring content through the creative process into the campaign itself, a 60% improvement. And we have hundreds of stories of customers that are doing things like that. My favorite customer story is Morningstar. And so we're at the New York Stock Exchange. Let's talk about a financial services organization. What they did, what our AI does really well is work intake. So you're starting a project or you have to evaluate a project, right? Their IT team took Asana and our AI Studio, which is a product that we've launched recently, all the project requests that come in, and they get thousands of project requests coming in from over an 11,000 person organization. Our AI is the triage layer of those projects. Is the form filled out correctly? What information do we not have that can put this on to the next step? If we need that information, how do we send it back to Judy and say, Judy, you haven't provided us all the details we need to either approve or not approve your project. Once it gets through that initial triage, it then takes the next step, which is so cool. It's like, okay, well, how long does the AI think the project's going to take? What are the resources you need? Who's available to then go and do the project based on our knowledge of all the work that's happening. Yeah. That's really cool. They were able to save 14 days in their evaluation process. So they went from, they pulled forward 14 days in that evaluation. So they're now able to approve projects faster and also not approve to give the reasoning back. That is real value to an IT organization that has a scarce amount of resources to do that type of work.
So Asana is the classic example of an AI-first company, right? I mean, they've embraced AI not only internally but externally. You know, as Ed was alluding, right? And if you look across the board, right, you know, it's not if, it's when, right? When you look across time, whether it was the cloud, whether it's AI, you can ignore mega trends at your own risk, right? So you can either take the tailwind and use that to take your enterprise to the next level, or you can lose relevance, right? And Asana is a classic example of a company that keeps transforming itself, you know, and keeps pivoting, right? For example, at Cisco, you know, we're talking about some of the use cases he had. At Cisco, what we've done is Cisco's realized it's hired these, the millennials, and they've hired like thousands of them, but they just don't have the capacity to have an SE or a sales engineer with each new salesperson. So what they'd asked us to do was take an avatar, create a virtual sales engineer, and that sales engineer can sit there and explain exactly, you know, what use case, what best practice, et cetera, et cetera. Talking to digital twins, as Ed was alluding to, right? Our concept of digital twin is a little different from where Ed was going in terms of manufacturing and supply chain. For us, a digital twin is essentially best-in-class salesperson, best-in-class RVP, best-in-class revenue operations. And essentially what we do is we create a clone of Ed's, perhaps, right? So Ed's one of the best sales leaders I've ever, you know, worked with. And create a clone of Ed or create a clone of one of his top performers. And then you have a benchmark to which to ascribe to, and you can talk to that avatar and get guidance as you move through the process. So it just goes back to our earlier, you know, conversation about, you know, where the industry is going in terms of every 6 months reinventing itself and almost leapfrogging, our concepts of growth and the multiplier effect, right?
And Ed, which teams tend to use AI first? I mean, are there departments that are using it more than others? What are you seeing?
I think the front office is really leading a lot of the way, and then some R&D. So if you think about your classic, you have your front office kind of selling organization, and then you have your engineering organization. I think they really are the pioneers right now, which makes sense because it was adopted through an engineering world. But just the speed at which code can be written, code can be deployed is fascinating right now as to how that's working. From a front office perspective, like my sales team, it's a really cool use case, and we use Asana for this. We're going to see a customer. We need to create a demonstration and a presentation. We'll use AI Studio to feed and it takes it from what we know about the customer in our platform already. It'll feed in and say, hey, we're going to see this customer about this use case. So we're going to see them about content production. We'll put it in, feed it everything. It'll then present the demo and the content back to us that we can then refine and say, no, change this. Hey, let's change this part of it or adjust this part of it. And it will then give us all the talking points that we need to bring in to that conversation. And I think in the front office, there's so much applicability right now to create that speed, that time to market for the salesperson, the marketer, the content producer. That's where I see the most applicability happening. And, but I also see all sides of organizations really now leaning in. I don't think folks have a choice but to lean in a touch and start to try.
All right. Now, you both speak with leaders of large companies often. Tell me, what are some of the most inspiring business leaders thinking about today? And how do you think the best leaders stay ahead when everything is moving so fast?
I was in Japan last week, and I met with a number of large organizations, and each and every one of the whether it was the CEOs of a division or whether it was an executive director of a division, all of their questions were, how are you thinking about Gen AI? Here's how we're thinking about it. We're thinking about it in our production lines. We're thinking about it for our selling organizations. We're thinking about it for how to do marketing differently. And those were just so many fun conversations. So I was super inspired coming out of Japan last week. And I hear the same things from some of our customers in Germany and as well as here in the United States. And there's been some really cool articles and topics that have come out recently. If you look at Mark Benioff from Salesforce, he just did the Wall Street Journal op-ed about this is the last time we'll only have a human-based workforce. It's now a human and a digital workforce that CEOs have to manage. So they're the last generation of human-only CEOs, which blew my mind. Or the CEO of Shopify yesterday, which said, hey, if you can't prove to me that AI can't do the job that you want that headcount for, then you can't have the headcount. It's effectively what his memo said. So I think there are business leaders that are leaning in and saying, hey, how do we use this to transform our businesses? And I've been inspired by lots, including our own CEO, Dustin, who pushes us relentlessly on our applicability of AI, how we're thinking about improving our own workforce, our own workflows inside of Asana, which has really pushed me as a distribution leader to make sure that our field organizations are leveraging AI to get to the customer faster, to be more relevant for the customer in that moment, and to really understand that moment of truth better.
And Trevor, what are your thoughts?
I'd echo what Ed said. I mean, he was extremely eloquent about it. It has to come from the top, right? And if your leader embraces it and says AI first, what does AI first really mean? AI first means, is there a way that I can use AI to augment my job, to improve the process, right? And it's not something that's a front office or a back office thing anymore. The question is really about how do I upskill myself to leverage AI? And it's not so obvious, right, the way you would use AI. And it's not something that can come innately. But with practice, we find that over time, it's got a 10x, 20x multiplier effect. That's what I was asking Ed. For example, you talked to Vimal Kapoor, right? I'm a huge fan of his at Honeywell's. Vimal's, Honeywell's, an AI-first organization. They leverage us across the board in so many use cases, whether it's RFP responses, whether it's account plans, whether it's, avatars. Cisco and Jeetu Patel. I mean, Jeetu is very pro-AI. He was like, look, guys, it's been 2 years since ChatGPT came out. I mean, at this point in time, yes, if you have any concerns about AI, use it as opportunities, but you can't ignore it. And you ignore it at your risk. And if you're not AI first, you're destined to non-relevance, right? I mean, and it's happened before. I mean, Ed and I have seen it with the dot-com era. We're both dating ourselves. We've seen it mobile. I mean, and then Europe leaping mobile over the US. We've seen it with the cloud where everyone, HP CIO telling me over his dead body, would he embrace cloud? HP's AI first. They learned this time around. They're a customer of ours now, right? So I think at the end of the day, you can count them, right? G2, you can call Chuck at Cisco, Honeywell. You could, of course, NVIDIA's. I'm a huge fan of his, but I just think that most of the CEOs in Silicon Valley have realized that this is an opportunity they can't ignore, and they're embracing it head first. But they're doing it in a thoughtful fashion, and they're making sure that people understand it's not an if and or, it's a must-have.
All right. Well, it's been wonderful to talk with you both. Thanks for joining me today, Trevor and Ed.
Pleasure.
Hey,
as
thank you
always.
for having us, Judy.
Thanks
It
for
was
having us.
wonderful.